Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to Red Hot Talk once again. And you can see that, well, Rod is not here with me because he's on holiday, so me by myself. But today's chat is going to be more a generic chat about photography, and I want to use this opportunity to, to reflect something that I observed over the past few weeks because a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. Some of you may already know if you follow the great Michael Forthard community. If you're not, just a photographer, hopefully you can catch on and also listen to what I'm about to say, because I think it is quite important. And also I would like to hear from you guys as well, from what you think about what I'm about to say about the whole kind of life, in general, about photography, in general, about gear, for instance, everything to do with us as a photographer. So I'm going to leave the show running for maybe about 5 to 10 minutes before we see some people joining in. But overall, I think that we should have a good chat today. But for those who may or may not see some of the latest video from, for instance, the Narrowband channel, also from Robin Wong, the couple of big things happen, of course. Ben from the Narrowband channel and his latest video about his cancer and things like that is quite touching, to be quite honest. But I'm glad to hear that it's quite remain quite positive about the whole situations. But I just feel every single word that he said about it, and I'm still really hopeful that he can recover from it. And Robin, obviously, he posted a video literally hours ago about his mother, and so bless him and hope that things are gonna go okay. He's gonna bounce back and come back to us as soon as possible, because a lot has happened. And also, not only that, you may not have seen any video from me, because I'm literally swamped with work. So I'm not really complaining, but at the same time, I feel like I'm letting my community down because I haven't been posting videos. I haven't been making video, to be quite honest. So for me, I don't know. Is it an obligation, or is it something that I should basically forget about and move on with my life and things like that? So this is all about today's chat. I think in general, basically what the thumbnail is saying, take a moment, because life is short. So we should really be embracing whatever's thrown in front of us, whether it's going to be a general human being, a dad, a up and coming, young guy, and so I just want to you guys to understand, from my perspective, I'm 51 now, coming to 51 this year, so I'm not young, but I'm not old just yet. But I've seen enough just to say a few words about my journey in photography in particular, because especially in the digital age, I find that things are getting more confusing. Things are a bit more distracting. You guys have heard of GAS, right? Gear Acquisition Syndromes, and it is actually a thing, believe me or not, even though there's no medical term about it. But there are lots of new models coming every year, and when you see about any sort of marketing material, you see a lot of reviews on YouTube, for instance, you just in some way just, I want to get the new camera, I want to get that new lens because it will benefit my photography, and so forth, right? It's very, very easy to get distracted like that. And I still remember the early days of my photography journey. I started with film, so film days were very different compared to digital. We didn't think too much about gear. Yes, we do some, to a certain extent, but we don't get new model every year, or even models, right? Because camera companies now releasing few models a year. It's quite a lot to absorb, that I'm just talking about one brand. So if you think about it, there are multiple brands out there. So you are talking about a dozen cameras a year. And that is a lot, right? In my film days, when I first started photography, a camera model would last for 7-8 years before they replace it. And things were a lot simpler back then. We were more concentrating on getting the gear that we want or dream of. and just that's it. We just throw some films to it and go out and take photos for the next 8 years before we're even considering making an upgrade or replacing the camera. Things were really simple, but that's something that I'd like to concentrate today, because I feel like a lot of photographers, especially those who grow up with digital photography, for instance, they may not necessarily understand, and also I think that they got distracted by the latest and the greatest, the latest technologies and things. Rod and I have discussed it. You guys have been following us long enough to understand, or maybe remember what we said. The evolutions of digital photography is, well, basically here. There's no more revolution, this just evolution. So this incremental updates, incremental upgrades or advancement, everything just very minute. So if you buy the model this year, it's not that much different to the year before, right? You only have to wait until 3 to 4 generations, then you notice the big jump. Otherwise, if you upgrade every year or every 2 years, you're not going to notice that much of a difference, to be quite honest. But even so, we also talked about 5, 6, 7, even 10 years old camera is still function perfectly fine, even in today's digital world. There's no difference when it comes to making photographs. I don't see the great disadvantage for someone who's using a 10-year-old camera, for instance. I still use some of the old cameras. My Epson RD1 is 15 years old. I still have my original not OM5, but the EM5. That's still perfectly fine. I still take some photos every now and then. It's more like my weekend joy now. It's not so much my daily camera. But you see my point. I think that digital photography is very, very different now, and it's not like what we used to see in the early days, in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, and you see this big jump in resolutions, in dynamic range, in the ISO numbers and everything like that. But for the past 6, 7 years, there isn't really that much. Okay, if you think that the AI subject tracking is the thing, to me, I don't necessarily need to use AI subject tracking. They are useful, don't get me wrong. They are very useful to getting the hit rates, and they help you in some really fast tracking, for instance, like birdings and animals and cars and whatnot, right? But for day-to-day photography, I think that a lot of these technologies that we think that we need, or we think that is necessary to improve our game, it's not really that much of a difference even if you choose it. I actually still use some of the old school method. For instance, I still use hyper focusing. I still stop the lens down, and I still use manual focus. So this is almost, for me, it's my second nature. Perhaps maybe the time when I grew up, I'm so used to this type of photography techniques, for instance. Maybe not so much with the newer generations, but for me, it isn't something that I like. And it's quite funny because this morning I got on Instagram, and I saw a post from a travel company, and in the Instagram post is reel. It's a video, short video. It talks about how to make good destination portrait, right? That's what all the Instagrammers doing, and in the video it actually teach you, or basically advise you, to do spray and pray. What does spray and pray means? Basically, press continuous and just shoot away with hundreds of shots, and you pick the one that you like. So even like now, this sort of technique, it seems to be a very commonplace now. Everyone seems to do that, even modern day professional photographer. Remember, we few chats before this one, and we talked a little bit about some of the wedding professionals now. They will be shooting, on the upwards of 10 to 15,000 pictures a wedding. Spray and pray, just hoping to get the moment. That's not how I was trained. That's not how I was shooting. Even nowadays, if I take a wedding, I would not take that many photos, right? I just anticipate the moment. I just execute. I wait for that, and I just do that. I don't do spray and pray. There are times I always do a few frames at a time. For instance, if they're young kids, I just want to make sure that I won't catch them, the wrong moment, or maybe when they're blinking and things like that. But those are isolated cases or isolated scenarios that I will utilize continuous and also in burst mode. In all the other cases, I would at best do 2 frames, maybe 3 frames, and that's all I really need. I don't need to have 15, 20, 30 frames at any one time. I think this is maybe perhaps the time has changed and moved on, but at the same time, there are a lot of things that I believe, modern photography is very different to the olden days of photography, but that necessarily means that the olden day photographic techniques is any worse than the modern techniques. I mean, we should actually be embracing new techniques, yet at the same time, I think people who grew up with the modern techniques should have a little bit more appreciation and maybe even learn a little bit about the art of patience, the art of anticipation, the art of execution, right? If you think about spray and pray, there's no executions there. You're literally just holding down the shutter and let the camera does its work and focus on whatever you're trying to focus and hope for the best, right? That's basically it, hope for the best. And so this is something that I think, for those who want to learn more about photography, learn from like these great journalists who are still shooting on a daily basis, they are the guys who, have the patience and execute. They're waiting to anticipate that moment. They still do that sort of thing. Great street photographers are still doing that sort of thing. And it's not just about luck. It's also about how you visualize, how you compose, how you execute, how you time your subject and everything like that. Perhaps the whole combination of these sort of things I just mentioned is the joy of creating that photograph. Spray and pray isn't really a joy, to me anyway. It's creating more work. If I'm doing that, you're creating more work for myself. I don't want to end up going back to open up Lightroom and saw 120 photos of the same thing basically, and then trying to analyze each frame and find the one that I really like. And even if you get a really good shot, from it, you're not having that joy. You don't have that kind of reward that you feel that, oh, I get that shot because I timed it right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, it's that really kind of rewarding experience and feeling coming out from that one shot that you took, right? If you're having 120 shots and pick the one that you want, you wouldn't have the same feeling. You just say, oh, that's a good shot. You don't have the same thing. You simply don't. Don't trust me. You don't. You may get some joy from getting a lot of likes, for instance, and things like that. And but that's besides the point. Remember that I also talked a little bit about that way back. You shoot for what you like, but not for the likes. So this is I'm still stand by my statement and still by my word. You should really just focus on things that you like to do, focus things that you like to photograph, for instance. You don't shoot for likes. You don't. I think for those who shoot for likes, it's defy the purpose of photography. The photography is very subjective, very personal, very, very much your own space. If somehow someone fall into your visions and they appreciate what you see and how you develop the photograph, that's great. That's brilliant. That means you got a following. But, for those who are just simply shooting for the amount of likes and thumbs up and hearts, whatever, and things like that, I just don't think that, you understand the essence of photography. Many, like Peter Forsgard talked about it. Many people have talked about the same thing. And I think that it is still true. Once again, maybe I'm a little bit too old for feeling what modern day photographers should be doing or what they're doing right now. Maybe I'm just heading the wrong direction. So this is the sort of thing I would like to basically talk to you guys about and maybe expand on it a little bit. But I would like to hear about your thoughts about things that I just said, and also to a certain extent just reflect on a lot of things that like I said right at the beginning. So for those who are just joining me right now, and a couple of things obviously I noticed in the last couple of weeks. First of all is Ben from the Narrowband channel, a fellow Michael Forther and also OM system photographer, who already had stage 4 cancer that he reviewed a couple of years ago. So he's been battling through it. In his latest video in his channel, I had the link in the description. If you want to check out that video, you can please feel free to click on the link and also support him to a certain extent, right? So he's still trying to battling it, and the doctor has given him 3 months to a year to live. It's quite a heavy video, to be quite honest, but I'm still kind of hopeful that maybe he can get out of it. And also, he's still quite positive and quite smiley in the video, but I know deep down, obviously, it's quite an emotional thing to to talk to the camera like this to everybody. So yeah, it is hard. It is hard. You know, I totally appreciated the video. So hopefully you guys will pay some pay some tribute and just go in and check out his video as well. And then the second video that I want to talk about is Robin Wong's video, who posted, I think, a few hours ago, early this morning. And it just popped up on my feed, and he's talking about his mother, right? He's in China at the moment. So yes, another video that has some bad news. So so the link's also in the description if we want to check out that video. It's only very short, only about 1 minute long. Basically, he's saying that he's taking a short break from YouTube because of what happened about his mother. So yeah, bless him. So, just wish him all the best, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to come back nice and strong. Yes, it's just a lot of things happening. Excuse me. And I myself, I haven't been making video, so so this is the first live stream in 2 weeks. In fact, the first in 2 weeks that I'm communicating with you a lot. I have not made any videos, have not done anything because I'm just truly very, very busy. I feel bad in some ways because I feel like I'm letting you guys down. I haven't been making videos, and there are a lot of things I actually need to make and do because I have a lot of stuff. But on another level, I have my full-time job as a photographer. I need to make money, for my family, and this is my peak season at the moment. I have never been that busy before, so I'm not complaining from the money side of it, so I'm quite happy about that. My business is growing, so everything is happening the right direction. But for my YouTube channel, for this month, maybe even next month, is going to be it's not a place that I will be focusing on at the moment because I've got jobs lined up literally until the end of August. There will be some time in between that I'll be making videos, and so please be patient, and there's something new will be coming. I'm also making something for OM System as well, so stay tuned for that video. Hopefully you guys will like that. That will not be posted on my channel, but it will be with OM System's channel, so hopefully you guys would like that. I'm not going to review too much, but things will come. And also a celebration message because my channel has finally gone past 100,000. So I have my silver button. I forgot to put it up here because otherwise you will see it. I'm really happy. I'm over the moon about my 100,000 subscribers. So thank you all for your support, for your continuous patience, and just general love towards me, my photography, and this channel, and also fellow followers in this channel. So we all support each other because I know I keep saying that this channel is more a Michael Four Third heavy channel, but I'm already expanded to Fujifilm, Nikon, full frame, AP, all kinds of stuff, right? Not just about OM System, Michael Four Third, but the core, I know. The majority of you are still Michael Four Third users, and so I'm blessed with you guys has been sticking with me and listening to all the rubbish that I'm saying in front of the camera. But a lot of the times I'm making videos just to just express my feeling more than things like that. I mean, I made a few in the past, through bad times and good times, and you guys always been there for me. So like I think I should be doing something to reward you guys. So I would like to actually announce, I already put one post on the community page that I'm going to make one video for the 100,000 subscriber video. So so I'm going to make one of that and also do a giveaway. So stay tuned for the video because I would like to do a giveaway in that video. I will be giving away a lens, a brand new lens. I hope you guys will like it. I'm not going to say too much about it, so you have to stay tuned for that video, right? And that lens to me is very special, but I'll let you know when the video comes, okay? So hopefully you guys will like that. So anyway, let's see some messages from you guys. Let's have a conversation about stuff that we just talked about, and maybe we can have a nice exchange here. So let's see. Okay. I'm just going to go through the list. Yeah? If you guys have any messages, any sort of thing that you want to ask me, please feel free to do so by the chat room there. I have not bought anything new since my OM1 Mark 1, but I admit that I have hoarded the second-hand market. Okay, it's interesting, right? We are spoiled. And I mean that we are spoiled with choices these days. The second-hand market is fine. Like I bought a lot of second-hand cameras myself because there are models that I remember when I was younger and less, financially secured. I couldn't afford certain models. So now when I'm now older, have a little bit more disposable income, so I now look at those models that I missed and trying to buy them back. So I do that as well. So not just you, I do the same thing myself. Yeah, it's interesting. Certain cameras are actually becoming, next to nothing. You can just buy them for pennies, but some of them has gone up in price, and to my surprise, because some of them I thought it would be cheaper to buy now, but it isn't. It's actually more expensive to buy than before. So that's a bit weird. So hopefully, the second market will stabilize a little bit, because I know that there's some sort of retro craze going on at the moment. So a lot of people are looking for these old style looking SLRs, film SLRs, and these sort of cameras that used to kind of get my heart pumping. These are the lovely looking cameras that I like to own. Not necessarily shoot with these days because film is so expensive. It's just not something that I intend to continue. Although I have a lot of film left in my fridge, but I'm just going to keep them there just because, first of all, I don't have that time to develop and to print them and things like that, because if I do shoot film, I will print them, I will do something, so I'd rather shoot digital these days. I just don't want to waste it. Maybe once a year I'll maybe take a roll and just have a little bit of a nostalgia feeling towards the old school photography. Okay, and let's see. I love the E-M1 Mark II. It has plenty of feature for me and only use it for photos. Right. E-M1 Mark II. Who else shoot with E-M1 Mark II still? Right? I think, personally, if you ask me to rate or to say one camera in the Olympus /OM system product that basically stole everybody's heart, people might say it's Pen F, right? Pen F is an emotional thing, but as a photographer, I personally think the E-M1 Mark II is that camera. I own 3 of them. I have 2 black ones. I gave one away because it's so well used, and I got a friend who's just starting as a photographer. He wanted something, just to start him up. So I gave him my very used E-M1 Mark II to start. And I have the limited, I don't know if you guys still remember the silver E-M1 Mark II, the limited edition, the 100-year model. I have that. I still have that. So yeah, so that one, I'm not going to part with that one. So that one's going to be stay in my collection. But the E-M1 Mark II, gosh, it is a capable camera, right? At the time, that one was revolutionary, right? And not evolution, it's revolutionary. Get the hybrid AF, is super quick to shoot with. High burst rates, computational stop, it's just crazy. And they got the at the time, and still is quite good image stabilization. The IBIS is out of this world. Rugged body, weather seal, that thing, has been with me like literally everywhere. Professional photo shoot, professional video stuff. I used that camera for about 3.5, 4 solid years. I even made the video about the retirement of that video, that camera. I actually made that video. I don't know if you guys seen that one. It's called the E-M1 Mark II end of term review. If you haven't seen that yet, go to my channel, search for that video, end of term E-M1 Mark II video. Yeah, I literally talked about everything, about how I feel about the E-M1 Mark II, how good it is, and why it's such a classic. Yeah, the E-M1 Mark II, to me, it is phenomenal. It is really a great camera. I know the E-M1 Mark III, the OM1 are great stuff. Don't get me wrong, they are really, really good cameras, but if I have to rank them, right, how much of a jump for the photographic industry, for the community, the E-M1 Mark II is always going to be that camera. And not only it was revolutionary, I remember it had the Firmware 2.0 update, right, which is about almost towards the end of life, right? Suddenly, Olympus dropped the Firmware 2.0 and literally gave us another new camera. It transformed it almost to the same capability as the E-M1 Mark III. it's insane, you know. And I think OEM systems should do more of that, you know, just to give us some really nice, juicy firmware, just to enhance the camera's capability to the next level. Well, no matter how old it is, you know, like, I think it deserved that update, you know, for each model. I think that would be cool, right? And you know, like all the cameras that have been released before, whether it's going to be EM5, OM5, you know, EM10, you know, all of those cameras, if they receive like a 2.0 firmware, and that would be brilliant, you know, and give us like nice updates or certain enhancements, for instance, and that will be really, really cool. That's something I would like to see again. But unfortunately, I think the EM1 Mark II firmware 2.0 was the only and the last major firmware update for any cameras in the camp. You know, I think it's unfortunate. You know, I was hoping that there will be more of those firmwares happening even for our later cameras now, and but it's not the case. But anyway, go back to the EM1 Mark II. It is indeed a great camera, and you can have it for quite you know, quite cheap now, right? You know, if you go on MPB, any second-hand market now, you see the EM1 Mark II selling, you know, in a very reasonable price, and even in a very nice condition one. And I think that you know, if you guys just starting out, you can probably skip the entry-level cameras like the EM10, for instance. You can just buy a second-hand EM1 Mark II. You know, this is a great camera to start with. Okay, let's see what else is there. Okay, and you me again. Imagine spray and pray during film era. Yeah, what do you guys think about spray and pray? For those who are just joining the channel chat today, the spray and pray technique is used by a lot of the modern photographers, and they basically stick the camera in continuous AF, set in burst rate. You know, I don't know what sort of numbers they set, 5 frames, 10 frames per second, sometimes 20 frames per second. I have no idea. But anyway, spray and pray means that CAF and burst together. And usually with subject face and face detection on. So basically, you just point the camera to the subject and just press the button and don't let go for the next 5 minutes. You just spray, you know, like 5,000 photos and hope for the best. That's spray and pray. Right. Like I said, there's no right or wrong here. You know, maybe my techniques is very much an old school thing, and I'm not entirely supportive towards the spray and pray technique. I think it lacks enjoyment. From my point of view, you know, I like to study my subject. I like to wait for the moment. I like to anticipate, and I like to execute my shot. I think this is the joy of photography. I think this is, to me, you know, the rewarding thing, the rewarding experience a photographer should experience, right? You know, and let's say if you do a street photography, for instance, you want to, if you observe, if you wait for the light, if you wait for the moment to come, you're gonna see the photo. If you execute it right, if you get that shot that you want, gosh, when you go back home and look at the images, oh wow, I did that. You know, I waited, you know, 15 minutes for that shot. You know, you can talk about it, right? You have a story to tell behind this photograph. If it's spray and pray, I just personally think that, you know, there isn't really much of a story, because literally making a movie and you just extract the frame out. So there isn't much of a story really, and there's not much of a game of patience there. There's not much execution. Well, actually no execution. You're just basically recording the scene, and then you just find that frame that you like and pick it up. Like I said, if you get that shot, you get the shot, you know. And but for me, I like that journey. I like that journey to catch that moment, right? You know, and why we're always talking about the moment, right? In photography, is that if you spray and pray, there's no moments there, right? You're just basically recording however long that is, and you find that moment in the video. Technically, you know, is if you're shooting 50 frames per second, it's literally a video, right? You know, if you got a 3 minutes long video, you just trying to find a frame, you know. You may get a perfect frame, don't get me wrong, you may get a perfect picture, but to me, it's not very enjoyable for that process. And don't forget that you have to go back home and look through hundreds and hundreds of photographs on your screen and trying to pick that photo. It's too much of a chore. It's too much time wasted, you know, by looking at the screen. I rather, waste that time standing on the street and observe, because you never know what else you might have missed in terms of moment, and what else has catch your eyes, right? Things like that. So I personally think that technique shouldn't be fully utilized in today's photography world. Like I said, a lot of photographers do use burst mode, do use CAF, but in isolated and very selective scenarios. Birding, for instance, is a must, right? If you want to get the moment, that's the reason why we have pre-capture or pro-capture, right? You pre-buffer 30 frames, and then you're trying to catch that moment, really precise moment. That's all great. Don't get me wrong. These techniques do exist, and these techniques do become very useful, but in isolated cases, not for everyday life. You've seen that so many times now. Photographers just simply press the button and fill up the entire 256 gig of memory card in a couple of hours, right? 256 gig of memory card would last me for a week. Some of these photographers now, they fill up the card in an hour. It's just how much photograph they have been capturing, and that's insane. To me, it's just creating a lot of work for yourself. Judge me wrong. If I'm a bit too old school, then maybe I'm just really simply out of date. But hopefully I'm not. So let's see what else we're talking about here. All right, Michael. I have an 011 Mark II for birding. My favorite camera to grab for normal shot is the E-M1X for a set of Voigtlander lenses. In the 80s and 90s, I shot film with Contax RTX Hasselblad and 4x5. Nice. Now you got a nice selection of cameras there, and yeah, I don't know how many of you still shoot films. Like I said earlier, I kind of stopped now. I mean, I have my film cameras lying around here, but I really don't use them anymore. I still have a dedicated fridge that store films in there, and I haven't touched it. I haven't touched any of those stuff in the fridge for about, I don't know, 2 years now, 3 years. Yeah, it's not something that I want to do now, because first of all, I don't have the time to do it. I said it already. I'm so busy with professional work, and any sort of free time that I have is for family and of course with you guys on YouTube. So I don't have that time to do film photography anymore. So a lot of the things I just simply use digital stuff. It's fun. I remember the good old days of films. I still want to do something like that. And that may be something I want to touch base on, maybe a little bit sidetracking. That people have been cussing about the Fujifilm X-H1, right? There's nothing wrong with X-H1. I think that a lot of people may not understand the camera's logic behind it. But at the same time, I think you should appreciate how Fujifilm is trying to do something fresh. The camera was never intended to aim at experienced photographer. It's never gonna be something for us, who are very experienced and know what we're doing with the camera and lenses. This camera is aiming for those who are starting as a beginner, or who are very much used to the Instax kind of environment. Point and shoot, capture that moment, and that's it. They're not too bothered about the post-processing side of it. They're not even bothered about that, So I'm not even talking about the iPhone generation. These are the Instax crowd, so they're very different crowd. But at the same time, I think this is the crowd could potentially be the next generations of digital photographers that we wanted to attract, right? The iPhone crowd would never going to jump into the digital world like we do, right? And the Instax, on the other hand, they may, okay? So this is interesting tactics. Obviously, we don't know how successful that tactic is, whether the X-H1 is going to attract a new bunch of digital photographers coming into the market and start buying cameras. I'm not entirely sure how successful that is, but logically thinking, I think it's a good product. I think it's a good commercial product for these type of photographers, so it may be something that makes sense. The reason I brought out this is because I also bought the X-H1, and I've been shooting with it for the past few weeks, and I kind of enjoyed it, right? And remember, we just talked about burst shooting, continuous, shooting 10 frames per second. this camera is slow. The X-H1 is super slow. Nothing like what we're so used to in the last 10 years. It's almost like, in terms of speed-wise, it's almost like the film camera. I'm not talking about quality, so don't get me wrong there. So you can only do one frame at a time. There's not even a continuous mode there. There's a CAF, but the CAF you can forget about it. The CAF doesn't really work that well. So the single AF, it takes about a second to acquire focus. So what I do, I actually use the X-H1 and put it in manual focus and use hyper focusing. Simple stuff, no delay there. Once it's into manual focus, it's a 1-inch sensor as well. Not 1 inch, is 1 inch? Yes, 1-inch sensor. So that means you got a lot of depth of field to play with. So even if I stop it down to f4 or f8, you practically can just shoot everything without having to think about it, and everything will be in focus. So it's actually pretty good street photography tools. So I want to show you some images, and just to show you guys while we're talking about this, and then we can continue to just talk a little bit about the photography journey that we're having right now, right? So everything you see here is actually from the X-H1. So I'm not trying to promote it. I'm not even a Fujifilm ambassador. I just used it, but forget about what camera I capture. There's another message I want to say to you guys about this particular point. I posted these photographs last week, and I got a lot of response from my thread. I don't know any of you in on the thread kind of social media platform. That's kind of my behind the scene platform. If you guys haven't followed me, and go to thread.com and search for Red35 Photography, and you see my account there. You can follow me there. I do post some photos, behind the scene photos, or things I just capture with whatever I'm testing, so you can have a feel of it, what's coming. So a lot of these photographs were posted last week on thread. I got a lot of messages through this, and one particular message caught my eyes. And this guy is not my follower. This guy hasn't seen any of my video. And he just simply said, you know, oh, these are nice photographs, but what's the difference between this and, you know, the XT4 or XT5 or any other cameras? That prompted me something, right? Okay, the reason I'm saying this is because he made a point, and the point is exactly the point I would try to say to everybody for the past 10 years. Gear does not matter, right? This X-H1 has been cussed or, you know, discussed by so many photographers. Oh, it's such a incapable camera. It's a crappy camera, shoot JPEG only. It doesn't do anything else, and blah blah blah. There's a lot of negativities towards this camera from experienced photographer. But for me, a camera that captures images is a camera. It's a tool, right? Whether it's going to be an iPhone, going to be an X-H1, going to be a 10,000 pound Leica or 15,000 pound Hasselblad, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just a tool. If you capture that moment, if you get that shot, it's a shot, right? So that point really prompted me to reply to him. I said, yeah, that is exactly my point. You know, the X-H1 is no different to a 1,000 pound camera, to a 2,000 pound camera, or 10,000 pound camera. It's just an image, right? If you like the image, it's a good shot. As simple as that. So I think, you know, when it comes to today's digital market, people are very much on gear, very much like, you know, say, oh, you gotta, you know, this shot must be taken with a very expensive camera, you know, blah, blah, blah. People can talk about it. But for me, I'm not talking about what gear this is captured by. I'm more about how did you capture the image, or where did you capture the image. I'm more into how, not what, right? You know, what capture it, I don't really care. You know, whether you're going to be a Micro Four Thirds guy, Lumix guy, OM system guy, Sony, Canon, I don't really care. If it's good image, it's a good image, right? And that image proved that point. Especially his comment really kind of resonate what I was trying to say for the past 10 years. It's about, you know, photography. I think people may have forgotten photography, the core, the essence of photography. It's about image making, not so much about the camera setting or the camera itself. It just have that, you know, moment that you're trying to enjoy, trying to capture, trying to freeze that moment, rather than, you know, figuring out, you know, like, what sort of subject tracking mode should I be using and things like. I think that people may be overcomplicating things a lot of the time these days. And to be honest, X-H1 in some way, because it's so bloody simple. I'm not joking. It's just so simple. It's nothing else you can mess around with, you know. Like, all I did with this shot actually straight out of camera, of course, you know, because, you know, remember the X-H1 only shoot JPEG. So this was set to A-Cross, which is the black and white film simulation mode. I put it in manual focus, basically hyper focus the whole thing, you know, from 5 meters to infinity, and I just snap it. That's it, snapped it, you know, and I just waited for the moment and just captured it. So this is how I used to shoot photograph. Right, you know, you remember back in the days when film photographers were the thing, you know, and look at all these film cameras. There's not much you can adjust or set or to do anything with. No matter how expensive the film camera is, they only have the shutter button, way to change the shutter speed at the aperture, and a frame, you know, continuous frame or focusing, whatever. If you're using autofocus cameras, that's really about it, you know. Whether you're going to be spending $2,000 on a camera or £500 on cameras, they practically do the same thing. So that's the photography. That's the simplicity of photography. But at the same time, I think that's really what supposed to be for photography, and also what we should be focusing on is the exposure triangle. You know, shutter speed, ISO, aperture, and the focus. And then after that, you know, you start looking at the artistic side of it, the composition, you know, the executions and the anticipation and whatever, you know, everything that I just talked about earlier. This is photography, not about, you know, trying to go through 20 pages of menu, trying to find a setting that you want, and then you customize certain bits of it, you know, trying to group the focusing point, blah blah blah. You know, it could end up, you know, trying to spend 10 minutes adjusting the camera before starting the shoot. I think that things should be a lot simpler. I think that things should be a little bit easier when it comes to photography. So here are a few more shots that I think is pretty cool, and then just want to continue scrolling through the some of the photograph, and while we're talking about photography. So let's go back to the comment section just to see what else I could see here. Right, this side of town, love using older manual lens on digital cameras. It slows you down and makes you think about what you're shooting. Yes, I think this is exactly the point, right? I think sometimes, you know, manual focusing lens is a way to kind of slow yourself down. If you don't want to get X-H1, you don't need to get the X-H1 to slow yourself down. A manual focus a lens would do just as well, because you can't have AF, right? You know, you just have to pick the moment, pre-focus certain bit, or hyper focus it. So things is a lot simpler when you take away the autofocus side of it. Things become a little bit more primitive, and because of the simplicity, you're starting to focus more on other things. You know, there's no turning back at that point, right? You just have to run with it, basically. So yeah, I agree. I think that manual lenses are a good way to slow yourself down, and also to train your brain to adjust to what we used to do in the olden times. And so no more spray and pray. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's see what else we're here. Okay, Ainsley say spray and pray is very genre specific. It works for me for large sport photography, basketball. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, spray and pray is a very useful in very isolated cases. But I do see a lot of people doing spray and pray for portrait, for instance. Oh, for goodness sake, portrait, you do need spray and pray? No, I personally really strongly against that, right? But I have seen photographers do that. I have seen fashion photographers do that. I have seen a lot of street photographers to do that. it's really taking away that kind of joyful thing that I just talked about, the journey of capturing the photograph, the story you can tell your son or your fellow photographer, your friends, when you show the pictures to. If you spray and pray, I think you simply lose that. But for sports, like I said, for sports, maybe birding and things like that, yeah, I think that, you know, those are fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, because even in the old days, you do burst mode, right? You know, you do continuous shooting. Even in the old days, you only get about like 6 frames per second or 10 frames per second, but that's kind of the maximum. And we can do a lot more these days. But yeah, this genre of photography do exist. You know, this type of photography do exist. But I think that newer generations now, they're using this technique for literally everything they do, and that's wrong. I think that they should be more selective, and about their approach to different genre of photography should be different. They should use different technique to do things, rather than just relying on two things really: how fast the camera can shoot burst rate, and second, relying on the AI subject tracking to do the work. So then again, you know, like we talked about many times, you know, between you and us, and you know, how much do you trust the computer to do the work for you, right? We talked about that, remember? I am a control freak. I think all photographers are control freaks, and which means that we would like to take control of everything: where to focus, what to capture, when to capture it. If you're just purely relying on the computer to do the work for us, and that's not photography, right? And that's not really what we want to see. And nothing wrong with what you just said, Ainsley, there. You know, sports photography is a different genre, but I'm talking about everyday stuff. And so it's no fun in that. I mean, if you just basically just press the button and just let it shoot for however long you want to capture that moment. And yeah, it's not for everything. Definitely not for everything. Isolated cases, yes, definitely not for everything. I think just is something wrong with modern digital photography these days. Okay, and thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Chuck, for congratulating for my 100K, and thank you that. Okay, I shot in the OG E-M1 on Saturday and still works well. Yes, E-M1. Although, you know what, yeah, the only camera that I haven't got from the Olympus cam, from the OMD lineup, is the E-M1 Mark 1, the original, the OG. I had the Mark II onward, so I have the Mark II, the Mark III, the OM1, the E-M1X, the OM1 Mark 1 and 2. I have a whole bunch of them. And I just haven't got the E-M1 Mark 1, the original. That is a really cool camera. So, and I remember they used to make silver and black, you know, so you can have a choice of 2 different colors. And I don't know why they stopped making them. How many of you still want to see a silver OM1? You know, I don't know. How many of you still want to see that? I do. I want to see silver silver OM1. That would be really cool. Yeah, they haven't really make it afterward, right? The E-M1 Mark II was all black, apart from that limited edition silver one. But E-M1 Mark III, the E-M1X, the OM1 Mark II, they're all black. There's no silver option whatsoever. The only body that has a choice were the E-M10 and the E-M5, now OM5 series. Of course, now the OM5, the latest Mark II, has a sandy beige color as well, which I actually ordered as well. So yeah, you can call me a hoarder when it comes to OM system stuff, and maybe with a sucker for that. So that's another thing that I want to talk about. You know, I got someone unsubscribe my channel after they watched my OM5 Mark II video, because he said that I'm boasting it. I simply just trying to sell the camera. I think he didn't really see the whole video, because right at the beginning of the video, I actually said I'm biased. I actually did declare that I'm biased towards this camera, right? The reason I was biased because the E-M5 Mark I was the one camera that got me into Olympus. It's the camera that got me into Micro Four Third. So I have a soft spot with that series. And then I love the Mark II. The Mark II was phenomenal. I like the IBIS. The 5-axis IBIS is just crazy. Then the Mark III was just also good. You know, I never had any negative thoughts about the EM5 series. And in fact, by then I got quite close to Olympus at the time, and the EM5 Mark III was the very first camera I got really involved with them. I was at the launch event for the EM5 Mark III, and started to vlog with the cameras on the EM5 Mark III. They noticed my vlogs, and also subsequently talked to me about ambassadorship, so I became the vlogging ambassador. My face was on the EM5 Mark III vlogging kit box. I was featured in the magazines and everything. And to me, it's something special. Imagine you have the opportunity to work with a brand. Wouldn't you think that that's quite special? I mean, I just really treasure that moment, treasure that opportunity. So it's just because all that happened within this EM5/OM5 series, it makes me feels a little bit more biased towards the camera. So no matter what they do, I'm just gonna say I like it. So I said that right at the beginning of the video. So I said I'm gonna be biased about this talk about this camera. So like, if you don't like it, you can switch off. Don't get offended by it. And it is what it is. I just like it. And in fact, I think the OM5 Mark II has some really good upgrades. Whether you like it or not, I do think that is actually pretty cool. I'm going to make some longer videos about some further testing about it, because there are a couple of things I said in the video. Some had disagreed because I also saw messages on it. But I'm going to clarify that why I said what I said. In particular, the night vision mode, because I think that I've seen some other videos already talk about the night vision mode. Is simply the live view boost mode. OM system did rebrand the live boost into night vision in the OM3 and the OM1 cameras. They rebranded it, but I can tell you right now, they behave very, very differently. Right, the OM5 Mark II and the other cameras that has night vision mode in the menu behave very, very differently. The OM5 Mark II does behave more like a traditional night vision camera. So not actually a live view boost. It's not just crank up the ISO. So stay tuned for that thing that I'm gonna make, because I have returned my OM5 Mark II now. I'm just waiting for my camera to turn up, which should be very soon, hopefully. They did say to me that they're going to give priority to me, send it to me so I can do some further testing on that. So I'm waiting for my camera to turn up as soon as I get it back, and I'm going to make a short video about the night vision mode comparing to the other cameras like the OM3 and also the OM1 Mark II, for instance. So you guys will see the difference and why I think the new night vision mode on the OM5 Mark II is different, and it's actually pretty good as well. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, let's move on to other things. And okay, let's see. Aims to say 2 cameras will never die: the EM1 Mark II and the EM10 Mark II, both classic. So what would be your favorite Olympus/OM system camera? Which cameras that you think that is classic to you, that achieve the classic status? For me, I already said that the EM1 Mark II is always going to be a classic camera, and that is the revolutionary camera in the entire lineup. And that includes the OM1 I'm talking about, because in terms of features, in terms of functionalities wise, it's one of the first of many. So it's really, really that cool. And the other classic Olympus cameras, I would say, is the Pen F. And Pen F is unique. Many of you already know I'm a big fan of Pen F. I think it's really, really cool. It's already achieving that status without a doubt. People are looking for it. The second-hand prices is, kind of very steady at the high end. That is really interesting to see. So, yeah, these two will, I think, to me, are the classic Olympus camera. I haven't counted OM3 because OM3 is brand new, so it's not a classic yet. When it comes to classic, it has to be a certain age. You're looking at the demand in the second-hand market, and for instance. So these are the 2 cameras I think is really, really cool. So I would like to hear from you guys, well, what you think, or what's your favorite or classic cameras from the Olympus lineup. I think that would be interesting. Even if you've got Lumix models, let me know your Lumix cameras, or what's your favorite Lumix camera, for instance. If you've got any models that you think is cool, let me know in the comment section. Right, let's continue right here. Okay, a software update for the EM1X would be great. So this is, I think, responding to my early message about firmware update. Yes, I believe so. How many of you would think that we should get more firmware update from camera company? Not necessarily just about OM system, but in general, I think you see that now. I don't know whether it's a thing because the manufacturer is trying to get you to buy new cameras or not. They simply stop giving us proper firmware updates. These days, when you get firmware updates, it's only for two things: compatibility of new lenses, or sorry, I just sweared. Fixing bugs. That's what I'm trying to say. Bug fixing. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, I can't believe I just swore. Right. Bug fixing. So only two things. This is what you get these days, right? We don't get new features. We don't get substantial enhancement to the camera's functionalities and things like that. We don't get that anymore. We used to get them in the older times. But for the last 5-6 years, how often do you see camera manufacturers giving us a proper firmware update? No. You know, you see, like I saw like a Nikon just issue a whole bunch of firmware last week, and all of them were just simply bug fixings, and some of them giving a little bit more cloud thing. You know, I don't know. To be honest, I don't use cloud, so that's nothing to do with me. I didn't even bother updating the firmware for my Nikon ZF. I can't be bothered. That's nothing to do with me, and then this is what we're getting these days. We don't get proper stuff, right? When a new lens come out, there's a new firmware for all the cameras because, yeah, compatibility. You know, come on. I think that we should be getting firmware updates for newer things, for newer features, enhanced features, for instance. But I guess this is a way for them to sell more cameras. You know, the camera industry is very challenging these days. So from a business perspective, perhaps I understand. But from a consumer's point of view, you know, I would like to see something like what we have back in the E-M1 Mark II era, right? We had proper firmware updates. Oh man, I really hope that we can see that more. You know, that would be cool, right? And Yumi just come back to this spray and pray here. Might get you the moment, but I don't have the time or patience to sit through thousands of raw pictures. Absolutely. Exactly what I said there. So, yeah, I think you are creating more work for yourself for the spray and pray technique, unless you need to, like the birding, like sports, like, you know, right? You know, some of you talked about sports earlier. Yeah, those are fine. You know, I'm not judging. I'm not saying it, but it's definitely not for everything. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. Not for day-to-day life, you know, not to day-to-day travel. You're going to end up with so many photographs to go through. I mean, that will be a chore just to get through it. I know nowadays we have AI software to pick the shot for you, but then again, you're relying on the computer. Again, you're not taking control as a photographer. How do you know that the AI or whatever program would select the photograph that you like, or maybe you think is the best one? Sometimes having critical focus may not necessarily be that best picture, right? You all know that a lot of photographs you see this day is the moment that counts. It's the overall aesthetic, not so much about the actual sharpness of the pictures or the focusing of the picture. Not just about that, you know. It's about that moment. That it's about, you know, what's around it, what's the overall picture, what story is telling. Is a lot to go on, you know, about that picture in terms of making it, the techniques and everything like that. Not just about, you know, the AI can't pick that for you. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can't really relying on that to help you troll through thousands of images because you just spray for the past 2 hours. So that's not the way to do it, and certainly not the way I want to do it. I still, every time I run a workshop, I just said to people, you know, yeah, be selective about what you photograph, and also be more have more control about when you want to press the shutter button, and try not to shoot too many continuous frame. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. There are moments you may want to do that, but of course there are times that you really have to hold back and wait for it. Okay, and let's move on to another image to see if I get another one. I like this one. That's pretty cool. I like this one. And do you have another? Oh, I love this one. Yes, I always like this. This is really cool. So again, this is shot with the X-H1, and also JPEG. I didn't touch it, it is what it is. That's how I captured it. So yeah, it's just another photograph that I kind of like. So let's continue our journey today. Let's see what else we have right here. So I'm just trying to pick out another comment. Oh, quite a few of you have already. Oh, who is Seraphine is talking about the removing the flash compatibilities of the OM5 Mark II made it a no-go, probably forcing me to Fuji for a compact camera now, and I didn't want that. Okay, well, the OM5 Mark II has caused a little bit of a stir when the people found out the incompatibility of that little flash that we all love. Right. There are two things there. Like I said, first of all, I'm biased. But second thing, in its defense, I can see two ways of saying this. One thing is that I think 90%, maybe even over 95% of the photographers don't really use the flash anymore, right? Some of us do still, but I think that I haven't touched mine. I haven't touched mine for, gosh, probably since the EM5 Mark II time. That's a long time ago. So I haven't touched that. I haven't touched that little flash. I still have a few lying around because I got so many of them. And but I'm using, if I can reach that. If I need to use a flash, I use a big thing. I use the proper 900R. I mean, I like this. This is my workhorse flash from the Olympus, because I have the wireless trigger system as well. So if I need to use flash, I use that. But other times, I simply don't. I know it's useful. It's a very useful tiny little things that you can keep in your camera bag, and for emergencies, for some quick field lights, whatnot. It's really good, right? To combat that, these days, because I also use smartphones sometimes to take photograph, I actually have a portable LED thing, not one of these folding things, quite small, quite flat and rechargeable. I just use that if I really want some fill light in dark environments. And it works well. It works really, really well indeed, actually. So I actually stopped using that. So I'm not surprised that they stopped supporting it. And but at the same time, I feel what everybody is talking about. And to a certain extent, I mean, making it compatible is certainly a software thing, right? Maybe just a physical connection, but I'm not entirely sure how that works. But it shouldn't be that difficult to make it compatible. So it's weird that at the same time, I think that why they stop that compatibility, you know, that's coming from a very biased OM5 user or EM5 user. So I guess that's why I understand why everyone's frustrated. But at the same time, like I said, I actually haven't touched my little flash for a long, long time now. So yeah. So I don't know. There are two sides of it, and but I think if there is a possibility, if there is something that OM system can do software-wise via firmware updates to make it compatible again, that would be great. And but I'm not complaining about it because I really haven't used it for a long time. So yeah, so it's not something that I'm too concerned about. I'm more concerned about the overall performance of everything else, which seems to be addressed by the latest update. Okay, and let's see what else are here. So we've got Nelson, and hello. May not be the best place to ask, but I was wondering. I was looking for the EM10 Mark IV as a newbie. Okay, and but it has a contrast detect really bad versus face. I do a lot of street photography and pictures of moving subway trains. Right. Okay. I guess your last statement kind of set it off for the whole thing. But two ways of looking at this. The EM10 Mark IV is really, really good camera. And I have one actually on the shelf. I took it to Scotland, not Scotland. I took it to Lake District a few years back now when the EM10 Mark IV came out. I shot the entire holiday with the EM10 Mark IV. I didn't bring any other high-end cameras that I had with me. I just used the EM10 Mark IV, and it performed very, very well. You know, I shot some, my kids were running around a little bit. I did also photograph some trains and boats. So it does work. just not as fast as a camera with face detection AF. But overall, I mean, the EM10 Mark IV does everything that the EM5 does everything that the EM1 does, you know, and it's just a little bit slower in most cases because of the contrast detect AF in continuous focusing mode. Single AF wise, I think the contrast detect is as good as any other system. To be quite honest with you, if you're looking at other older cameras from, let's say, Lumix, for instance, when they have the DFD system, those systems is contrast detect based AF system. It's still one of the fastest single point focusing system ever, to me anyway. So it's a great system. There's nothing wrong with contrast detect AF. In fact, it's more accurate than face detect, believe me or not, because when it's come to contrast detect, it's really trying to find the black and the white and trying to get the line as sharp as possible. That's the contrast detect. Face detects are involving a lot of guesswork from the camera, and so it may not actually hit that critical sharpness whenever you want it to. So the contrast detect, on the other hand, that if it does acquire focus, it's usually pin sharp. So that's the good side of it. So I guess it's depending on a lot of things that you want to photograph. If you do a lot of like really action stuff, a lot of moving stuff, for instance, then maybe you want to try to find something with face detection AF, then use it, trying to utilize CAF, for instance. But for me, like I show you these images you're just seeing right on the screen right now, these are, I set it to manual focus, so I didn't even utilize any autofocus at all. It just some focus it. That's my way of shooting street, and so I just like doing that kind of photography, you know. And I stopped the lens down to f5.6, f8, especially micro four third. It's brilliant because we got more depth of field to play with compared to a larger sensor system, for instance. So when we stop it to 5.6, we got the equivalent depth of field of almost an f12. So we have a lot of room to play with, and that means it's more forgiving when it comes to focusing, and also, you know, capturing this zone that you want to see in focus on the street. And I love that, and I really, really like that. When it comes to moving subway train, you are also talking a little bit about low light performance. So because a lot of subway, you talk about like underground, so it becomes a little bit dimmer. And in that case, I think contrast detect in continuous focusing mode could struggle a little bit in that sense. So I hope that makes sense. But even with face detection AF, you are still have to looking for maybe high-end camera to capture those stuff in low light as well, because some of the lower-end CAF, face detection AF system may not cope as well in lower light situation when it comes to continuous focusing or moving subject, for instance. So just bear that in mind. And also, just to throw a little bit more into the ring, lens also dependent as well. So lens, if you want to do something that is fast-moving, you may want to look at something with a faster AF motor in the lens. So that means you probably have to consider buying a higher end lenses as well. So yeah, I try not to overblow this conversation here, but there's a lot of things to consider. But this is the general thing that I would like to give it to you. So the EM10 Mark IV is great, and I think nothing wrong in contrast detect. In fact, I have used CAF in contrast detect to document my kids when they're growing up. That's the time when I was using the EM5 Mark II and the Mark I. There is a setting in the menu that you can actually do. Only take the shot when the camera detects or acquired focus. It's going to be a little bit slower, but every shot you get is going to be pin sharp. So there you go. But if you've got any other question, I'm pretty sure that I will be able to help, and you just message me. Okay, and let's what else we have right here. Just watch a red. Oh, you just watched my older video. I like the video actually. It's quite fun. Sweden of hello enthusiast, one from Sweden. Hello, how are you? I'm very well, thank you. And I'm feeling a bit very energetic today, talk about photography, because that's what I like. That's what I love about this community, because we like to talk about photography, right? Okay, let's go here. Patrick, I don't have the lens, sadly. I don't know which one you talk about now. I need to go back to it. Okay, oh, that's the original one. Oh, the 3518 102.8 single AF is fast enough. Continuous, not great though. Okay, you talk about other lenses choices, right? Okay, I'm gonna leave you guys talking about it. I'm gonna find another comment to answer. So look at this. Okay. Oh, someone replying those messages. My favorite Micro Four Third, which I will never get rid of, is the E-M1X and the E-M1 Mark III, the E-M10 Mark II, the EPL9, Lumix G9. Oh, you got a selection there too, and the GX5 Mark II. Wow. Okay. Okay. You are a nutter just like me. I have way too many Micro Four Third cameras, to be honest. I have literally all the OMD cameras, like the EM10, the EM1, the EM5, literally all of them. So that's how many Micro Four Third cameras I have. And I have a few Lumix cameras. So I have the G9 Mark II, which I'm gonna sell actually, sadly, and also the GX6 and the GX7 for all my filming needs. And a GM1. I have GM1 as well. So I have a few. Micro Four Third stuff. And of course, I have a ton of lenses, and maybe too many actually. So yeah, it's good. But you got a lot of favorite there. But the E-M1X, yes, the E-M1X is one understated camera as well. You know, it's a classic. It's the only kind, a bit like Pen F. It's kind of the only one of its kind in the entire Micro Four Third spectrum. You know, the E-M1X is being the biggest and strongest and most rugged Micro Four Third camera ever built, right? You know, this is this insane, you know, it's an over-engineered camera, to be quite honest. It just never breaks, never fails. It's the G-Shock of all camera. And the Pen F, oh gosh, you know, that's also one of a kind, right? You know, and will we see another one? Let's fingers crossed. Not saying that, you know, they will do it. You know, obviously I don't know anything about it, but let's hope that, you know, OM System going to give us something exciting, you know, in the future. But I certainly think the OM3 did its justice. You know, as a spiritual successor of the Pen F. It has a lot of the elements that coming out from the Pen F. You know, the creative dial, for instance, the build is very, very similar. But the best thing is, of course, it's got weather seal, you know, and which the Pen F never had. So I think all in all, the OM3 really is, you know, kind of like a Pen F. Obviously, it's a different style. It's SLR style, not the rangefinder style camera. And at some point, I would still want to see a rangefinder style camera from OM System. You know, hopefully, at some point, some sort of pen camera will come out and revive, you know, this kind of rangefinder style camera. That would be great. At the same time, of course, you know, if Lumix have something like that, you know, that would be really cool too, right? You know, but I'm very doubtful Lumix is going to do that, and because they obviously focusing on the SLI style camera, and because a lot of the newer cameras they can see from Lumix now is kind of like follow or using the actual body design from the full frame cameras, just like the G9 Mark II, you know, just like, you know, they reuse the S5 body. Yeah, I'm not so sure about whether they will do it, but let's see. Hopefully they will prove me wrong too. Okay, let's go on with the other things here. Chuck, hello Chuck. I was surprised that Sony added focus bracketing to the A7 Mark IV. I think their manufacturers now are slowly catching up certain aspects of what Olympus camera has been doing for years. There are certainly a lot more cameras now having the same feature, just like the Pro Capture. They call it the pre-focus or pre-capture, you know, whatever the term that they use is basically the same thing. So basically buffering a number of shots before you even press the shutter. Yeah, it's certainly happening. So let's see what the world is going to be like in the next 5 to 10 years, and what other features are other manufacturers going to do. I very doubt that the full frame or even APC cameras will do computational stuff like OM System cameras are doing at the moment, because there are a lot of things you have to consider. For instance, the live ND features relying a lot on the stabilization strength of the camera, and we all know that Micro Four Third camera has the best stabilizations in the world. You can't even beat that. You can't even compare it. No matter how much you say about this number of stop that the camera can compensate, is simply not in the same league. I mean, look, I'm not trying to exaggerate things. I have Nikon full frame ZF. I have the APS-C camera from Fujifilm's, and then I test them, side by side. There's no way you can even come close to the stabilization we have on the Lumix or the OM system cameras. No, you can't, and it's still you see the whole thing being shaking around at its maximum settings and everything like that. Even when you employ digital stabilization together, it's still not going to match, even a 5-year-old OM system camera or Olympus camera for that matter. So yeah, you just can't compare that. So a lot of these features like live ND, because it needs to be very stabilized to do that computational stuff, because you have to wait for it. And so the longer you can hold the camera, the longer the stabilization can do its work and stabilize the camera shake, and the better. So yeah, something that I very doubtful the Fujifilm camera will ever achieve that, simply because they just don't have the same stabilization strength as Micro Four Thirds cameras. Right, let's see what else we have right here. And oh, GG Wildlife is my favorite Micro Four Thirds. Oh no, we've done that already. Sorry, I'm just clicking randomly at the moment. Zach, okay, that old 16 megapixel OLED sensor is classic by itself. How many of you agree with that? I do. I actually think the old 16 megapixel sensor is actually pretty unique. And I like the colors coming out from it for some reasons. And I think it's quite filmic. I think it looks great on JPEG form. Obviously, it hasn't got the same dynamic range. It hasn't got the same noise performance, for instance. But something about it, right? It's a little bit like these CMOS sensors versus the CCD sensors, right? The Leica community, they all boast about the CCD sensor, saying, "Oh, it's like a Kodachrome look," and things like that. And it is a little bit like that. I think the 16 megapixel sensor has some uniqueness towards it. It certainly looks a little bit interesting, when it comes to colors. And not saying the new one is worse. It's actually very, very good to my standard. But the 16 definitely looks a little bit different. Looks a little bit more organic, when it comes to color reproduction. So that is quite a feast on itself. And let's see. Furious though. After the E-M1 Mark II, the updates were finished in the X. Alright. Okay, right. Let's see what else we have here. You mean for me, the classic Olympus digital camera is the EM5. Before the EM5, the flagship was the Pan EP3, and it was not worth a seal, and it had the optional viewfinder. Oh yeah, one thing I do miss is the external viewfinder. How many of you would like to see the return of external viewfinder? They can attach to literally any cameras. I would like to see that, because I like the opportunity to use to flip the EVF upward. I like to do waist level shooting sometimes, and rather than opening up the screen, I like to see through the viewfinder just by basically lowering my head, just looking through the viewfinder. I think that is really cool. I miss that. I really miss that. Not many people do that now, because I think, first of all, it's cost. It's definitely expensive, and especially if you want to go high end with like really crisp, high resolution EVF, that's going to cost an arm and leg. Look at the Leica EVF, for the Leica M. Gosh, man, that's like 600 quid. That's a camera on itself, just for the EVF. That's insane. But then again, it's Leica, right? You're paying Leica tax on it, and unfortunately. But there's no one else make EVF these days. I mean, external EVFs, and I would like to see that, so you can use it on any cameras. That would be really cool. I like that. I like to see that. And I'm not talking about OVF, the kind of like a optical viewfinder that you attach on the hot shoes. I'm talking about actual electronic viewfinder. That would be really cool. But go back to your point, the EM5. Yes, the EM5 is a classic. The EM5, like I said, is what got me into Olympus and also Micro Four Thirds in the first place. So the EM5 is a nice camera. I like it. I like the look and feel. If I have it right here, somewhere up in the top. Not sure I had that. Yeah, it's on the top, so I can't reach it. I'm too lazy. But yeah, it's EM5 is great. I love the EM5, but then I think the EM5 Mark II was a better camera. But the EM5 always gonna be that classic, right? It's because of the first, and also weather seal, and it looks gorgeous, right? That look, it just really reminds me of the 1980s SLR, the flat body, you know, the protruding mirror housing, even though there's no mirror, and but everything just looks great on that camera. And I had the silver, so yeah, it's just so classic, that camera. The EM5 Mark II is starting to modernize things a lot, you know, because see, the grip was there, you know, the body's becoming slightly more angular, has more sharp edges, for instance. It's definitely a very different look to the EM5 Mark I. In fact, if you look at the OM3, it actually have a little bit of throwback, you know, when it comes to the body design. It kind of a little bit like the EM5, you know, have a more like a rectangular salt bar kind of look to it, and there's not much of a grip to it, so yeah, it's actually kind of like going back a little bit. But I think that's the whole point, you know, about the OM3. It's always going to be a retro camera, just like the ZF. It's got no grip whatsoever, you know, like yeah, it is what it is, you know, just because they want to look like an old camera, you know, and so that's fine by me. You know, if you really want, you can order third-party grips on it, and I actually do have one on my OM3 if I want to use it as a pro tool, and that's not too much of a problem if you want to hold something slightly heavier. So Simon Patel, they should make update and put in all Olympus camera color modes like the OM3, Pan F, or the EP7, and should make the community to make presets for all Olympus cameras. Perhaps, you know, but I think that the whole point about this is to differentiate the tiers, and also the targeting crowds of this particular color modes that you suggested right here. Yeah, I mean, if you think that all features can be going across the entire lineup, and then what's the point of buying the expensive cameras, you know? And so that's why we have tiers, and the lower the tiers, the less features or functions it has compared to the high-end cameras. It's not always just about the build quality and the material used on the body and so forth. It's also about features. Well, because like I said right at the beginning, you know, like you know, taking photographs is all about controlling the exposure triangle, and everything else comes as extra. So it should be focusing on those areas, and anything else would be just, you know, icing on the cake. So depending how many icings you want on your cake, then you just have to pay for those icing every single time. Right, let's see what else, what other picture I have right here. Oh, that's nothing there. That's nothing here. Let's see what else I have. Ooh, okay. Oh, is that it? Right, okay. I'll leave the 3 women shot on the screen right here. Let's see, Furious One here is replying to GG Wi-Fi. I think they're going to Pana too, and they are more video focused. Well, you know, and Lumix camera's always been really good with the video stuff, and nothing wrong with that. I think that their cameras are okay, but I do prefer OM system camera for stills. But I have a few Lumix camera, but they are for video only. And although I do shoot with the GX7 for stills every so often, because sometimes I need something slightly high resolution, because it does have a 25 megapixel sensor, and so if I want to, you know, shoot something slightly higher res, I use that instead of any of the OM system cameras, because yeah, they all tops out at 20 megapixel. So maybe that's something that we should be looking out for in the future from OM system. I'm pretty certain at some point they're gonna have to up the megapixel, because it's not. Sometime I know it's not just about megapixel. We talked about this many times, but I think that you know, megapixel is not everything. But at the same time, I think that the market wants something high resolution, at least different to what they already have for the past 10 years. So so that's something that maybe we should be seeing in the very near future. Don't quote me on that. I have no idea. So I'm just guessing and speculating. And what about Lumix? Lumix already been using 25 megapixel for the last couple of years. Will we see another bump? Don't know. Only if they continue to make Micro Four Thirds cameras, that is. See, I'm starting to feel a little bit gloom and doom at the moment for Micro Four Thirds. No, I'm not. I'm very supportive. I'm still a 100% supporter of Micro Four Thirds. I'm really hoping Lumix gonna give us some surprises, you know, in the very near future about another Micro Four Thirds cameras. You know, I don't care what they are. Just give me another cool thing, and I'll be really, really happy. Like all we do here, right? You know, we all like Micro Four Thirds and cameras in general. Gas. We're having gas right now. Okay. Let's continue. Right. So, what else right here? Last comment here. That's the latest one. I don't like how the OM1 look compared to the E-M1 Mark II. And okay. Well, obviously, look is very subjective, and not much about you know, how it looks and things like that, because everyone would think differently. But I do agree to a certain extent how the prism housing looks, because I do prefer the older kind of angular mirror housing look. Let me see if I can get one here. Right, I've got the OM5 here. This is the Mark 1, not the Mark 2. Like I said, I'll return the Mark 2. I'm waiting for my own copy. But look at here. I like this angular shape of mirror dome here, because the OM1 is slightly curved, and I know it looks a little bit more modern, but I prefer the angular look, which is the E-M1 Mark 2 and 3. So I do prefer that look, but other than that, I'm okay. The grip was definitely better, and the placement of the buttons is slightly better. Also, there's a joystick, right? You know, and so I like that. I like that joystick thing. Okay, right. So, is there anything else that you guys may want to talk about? When it comes to Micro Four Thirds, anything you would like to see from OM System in the near future? I'm going to share just a couple of points from me, what I would like to see from them personally. Not necessarily this is going to be a leak. Nope, I don't know nothing about anything. I just want to share my personal wish, you know, for what OM System, or in fact the overall Micro Four Thirds community as a whole. What I would like to see, first of all, from OM System is a new sensor. Yep, I'd like to see a new sensor. I know we already have the stacked BSI sensor, which is phenomenal. I like that. But I like to see a higher resolution sensor, and that is because it currently stopped me from doing a lot of my pro job with the with the OM System camera. Right, for my own stuff, I still shoot, you know, the OM System day in day out, everything with it. But for a lot of my pro job, which I already used it as my reasoning for the last 2 years now, I already told you guys that my agency is now requiring me to submit photos that is higher than 20 megapixels. And that presents a problem for me, because I you know, my OM System cameras are not, you know, they're all 20. They can't go above 20. So the minimum requirements now for my agency is 22 megapixels. So I can't even achieve that. So I know some of you have suggested to me before, well, we just upscale your photographs and things like that through software. Upscaling is always going to be a little bit tricky and sort of a bit different, and especially when the photo agency had a strict rule about manipulations and things like that. So like, I'm just not going to upscale my photo. I mean, if I shoot everything, I can downsize it. You know, if it got a 40 megapixel, I can downsize back down to 22, but upscaling it, involving a lot of computational stuff, and in some cases AI these days, AI upscaling, it could be involving in some artifacts that is not wanted. So definitely not something that I will be doing anytime soon. So I am hoping that OM System will come up with a high resolution sensor, so I can now go back to my beloved OM System kit, so I can shoot pro jobs with it again. At the moment, I'm using my ZF a lot. I'm using my XM5 a lot, because they are both 26 megapixels. Sometimes Leica, and Leica's 24 that I have here, and I don't have the latest Leica, digital Leica M. I have the older one, which is 24 megapixel, but still over 22, so I can still use that for my agency assignments. It's just not so much about my OM system current state. I can use GX7, that's 25, so there you go. That's why. So I'm hoping, yeah, a high resolution sensor would be great. The second thing I would like to see from OM system would probably some updates on the other primes. I know they recently upgraded the 17 and the 25 1.8 primes to be weather sealed. I love that. I love this decision, and they finally made that to answer our calls. But I would like to see the 12 upgraded. I would like to see the a new ultra wide angle prime lens. They had the 8mm fisheye 1.8. That's a brilliant lens. You can defish it in camera, but I don't want to defish anything. I would like to see a rectilinear ultra wide angle lens, a little bit like the Lumix 9mm 1.7. That's a brilliant ultra wide. But I'd like to see something more extreme, perhaps maybe like a little bit like Laowa, but just autofocus. So like a 6mm or 7mm, f2 or 2.8, I don't care. Just autofocus. Give me something that wide. That will be really, really good, because I do use them. I do use these ultra wide to do some environmental shots and some of the landscape work, and also vlogging, you know, some video work. And I think that ultra wide will be hugely beneficial for my stuff. But again, it's my wish, right? You know, it's just my list of things that I would like to see. What else would I like to see from OM? Maybe just general updates on a lot of stuff that we're seeing these days, because a lot of the lenses in the lineup are, and to be a little bit frank, a little bit old now. Let me give you an example. I know we recently have the 12 to 40 2.8 updated or rebranded as an OM system lens, but we haven't seen a significant upgrade from the older lenses like the 7 to 14 2.8 Pro and the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro. These two are magnificent lenses. They are great for what they are, but they're also getting a little bit older now. And if one day OM system decided to use a high megapixel count cameras, I am very certain that they will need to upgrade some of these lenses to reflect, you know, the higher megapixel counts, making sure that they are still having the same resolving power as the newer high resolution counterparts. I think at the moment they still work okay on the Lumix camera, because I use the 40 to 150 and the 7 to 14 on the Lumix 25 megapixel sensor. They seem all right to me, but I think that may be reaching to the limits what the lens can do. So if the OM system want to future-proof the lens lineup, they will have to upgrade the lenses to make sure that it can actually still resolve the details when it comes to even high megapixel count sensors at some point in the future. It may not be a priority at the moment because we still have 20. We don't have anything higher than 20, so that's probably why they haven't really made a move yet. So we shall see. We shall see. But I'm pretty certain, you know, some of the higher end pro lenses like the 150 to 400, the White Beast, that lens can out resolve 25, you know, by miles. So that means that lens is future proofing itself. You can do 30 easy. The other lenses like the 300 Pro in the F4 Pro is very sharp lens. No doubt that lens can do 30 as well. The 60 2.8 macro, that's very, very sharp as well. The 12 to 40 actually very sharp on its own, so that probably okay. That's why they didn't bother about rejugging the internals and the optical formula, so that's fine. But the 7, I always feel that it belongs to the 16 to 20 era, and so anything over 20 is going to be, doesn't look as good. The 40 to 150, again, you know, is sharp, but I think we're also reaching the limit of what you can do for the resolution as well. So anything higher, you're going to be looking for trouble. So I think some of these lenses will definitely need updating. So we will see what other things that is going to be happening in the near future for OM system. And what about Lumix then? Well, Lumix, I think that they haven't actually launched any new lenses for a while, to be frank. And so I'm not entirely sure whether they are or they will continue to focus on the optical side of it, because at the moment, obviously, they are focusing on the full frame side. But even full frame lens lineup, I don't think they launched many things, to be quite honest. But luckily, because the L system, the L mount system is obviously the L Alliance, so they got Sigma and Leica making lenses as well. So they're not too bad in that situation. If you buy a Lumix S system, the full frame system, you have other lenses to play with. But on the Micro Four Thirds side, I think that they haven't really upgraded anything. The last lens that I think that's worth noting and worth buying was the 9mm 1.7 I just mentioned, and that is a brilliant lens. I have one of those and I think it's really good. But apart from that, I haven't seen anything else. They haven't seen any newer Leica lenses coming along. Again, you know, if one day Lumix is going to go higher resolution than 25, they may struggle as well, because a lot of their lenses are also pretty old as well. And to complicate things a little bit more is that, well, third parties no longer makes Micro Four Thirds lenses. Maybe apart from Yongnuo. Laowa has stopped making them. And 7 Artisan, TT Artisan stopped making Micro Four Thirds lenses. They haven't officially said they're not going to make it, or they won't make it. I'm hoping they will still make something. And that will be my dream, because I want to see more stuff from them, and especially with the newer autofocus lenses, and that will be amazing, especially Laowa, because Laowa makes a lot of wide angle lenses. Like I said earlier, I want some ultra wide rectilinear lens from OM system. If they don't make it, I'm hoping Laowa would, because Laowa makes ultra wide angle lenses, and if they throw in an autofocusing motor there, make it compatible with Micro Four Thirds cameras, that will sell like hotcakes, I'm telling you. And but at the moment, I haven't seen anything or heard anything from them. I'm hoping that they will at some point. What else then? I think that's about it, man. What about you guys? What sort of thing would you like to see from the Micro Four Thirds world? What else would you like to see? The lenses or the cameras, for instance? Are you happy with current cameras, for instance? That will be quite interesting to hear from you, because I personally love what I have right now. I think that it does everything I need them to do, apart from the resolution from the home system. But for my travel, for my documentary, for my other personal work, I'm still very, very happy with the home system sensors and everything like that. It does everything I need the camera to do for me. And I never needed anything more than 20 from a personal perspective. But I understand the market's needs, I understand the market's wishes, I understand my agency who wants high megapixel cameras, or resolution files. I get that and I appreciate it. You know, that's where it's heading. But personally, you know, I'm happy where I am at the moment. So I don't need anything else, but the market demands it, and hoping that OM system will satisfy us or the market at some point in the future. So let's see. Oop, what I have in here. I have a. Sorry, I got a little spider hanging on my cap. Sorry about that. Oh, I thought it's going to land on my mouth at some point. I hope it's not. Okay, right. Let's see. Angela's got. Hello, let Angela play for one. Greetings from Netherlands. Hello again. It's good to see you back. Regarding resolution, BUM and OM was clear in an interview. They will keep at 20 megapixel. I think for now, but there are also some reports on the internet, the World Wide Web, suggesting that OM system hasn't ruled out anything about high resolution sensors. They said also a new sensor is being developed. You know, the more precise wording is that they are continue to invest in sensor development. So that's all they said. So that means that they are still looking into sensor developments. That means some updates will be coming in future models. So we never know, right? You never know that it's going to be 20, 25, 30, whatever. I don't know. We already know that in Sony's catalog, the sensor catalog, they already have something high resolutions exist. They have 30 and 40 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensors available. But I also spoke to some Olympus employees or engineers before. That's before the OM system took over. They also said to me that, you know, it's not that simple when it comes to using a high resolution sensor in the current cameras. It's not just about resolution, it's about the whole engineering side of it, the RAM, and also the heating issues, a lot of the actual design of the current circuit board will not support the high resolution sensor. I'm not an engineer, so I can't really comment on anything that he said, and so just have to take his word for it. So basically saying that it's not as simple as, you know, just throwing a high megapixel cameras. There's a lot more things going on behind the scene that we don't know about or appreciate. So what is going on with the 20 megapixel? Well, it's doing what it needs to do. It's been doing all right for the last 10 years, and there's no urge to really change anything. And in fact, if you kind of see that, you know, that's basically what's happening around the whole camera industry anyway. I mean, we do have some high resolution cameras, but most of the cameras now kind of hovering between 24 to 26 megapixel for a lot of cameras now. I think that finally that camera industry realized that, yeah, a lot of consumers don't need 40 megapixel or 50 megapixels. You know, let's reserve those as niche cameras, and then for some people who do demand those high resolution. But for the day-to-day photographer, you know, 24, 26 is more than enough for most situations, and I totally agree with that. Like I said already, 20 is you know, enough for me, but I will be happy with 25, for instance. So that's something to think about. So let's see what else we got it right here. The Lumix in short will not come with new sensors more than 25. So okay, I would not disagree with you, because their 25 megapixel sensor is only been around for about 2 years. So yeah, based on the Michael Four Thirds history records, yeah, these sort of resolutions tends to stick around for a few years before they upgrade. You know, we had 12 for a while, then 16 for a while, then the 20 literally for the last 20 years, and now the Panasonic has 25. That may be sticking around for another 5-6 years minimum before they're considering a new technology or new sensor. OM system continue to stick with the 20, but they do have new sensor because they use BSI stack sensor, which is very expensive, very fast sensor, even though it only has 20 megapixel. But it's one heck of a sensor, I'm telling you right now, and I totally appreciate on the OM1 and the OM3 as well, because yeah, it does its job magically. Okay, and XC photography. OM would make a killing in the entry-level market if they brought the OM3E. Oh, that's an interesting name. I like that, E. And put in the OM10 tutorial for a feature worth OM5 capabilities at an affordable price. Right, I have seen Petapixel's video about the OM5, and I think in the video it suggested, you know, they believe that the OM system has literally scrapped the OM10 model line completely. So basically that the OM5 is now the entry level camera. Right. I think that may not be a totally wrong assumption, because if you think about it, everything has gone more expensive these days, and cameras are, gosh, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, you know, pounds, UK pounds, to get something decent, you know, rocket body, metal build, weather seal, and whatever, right? So entry level cameras that we know of no longer have this place for or feasible for that price range. I think that camera makers can't really make money from £500-600 cameras anymore. Really, they can't. That used to be the gateway to lure people into the brand and get into the system. But I think that, you know, it comes to the point these days that the camera industry's margin is so thin. That means that it's going to be very difficult for them to make money, or to make a loss leader, you know, as some supermarket terminologies, loss leader, you know, to get people into the system and hoping they're going to upgrade and buy lenses and other stuff in the future. And that tactics no longer works, you know, and you can see the camera industry in general are not doing well. You know, the profit margin is getting smaller and smaller every year. So they need to do something about it. So at the moment, I think the easiest thing to do is just grab the entry model and just basically starting price is going to be around about £800-900. That kind of price range. So that applies to literally every models these days. I mean, although the Lumix still has was it a GX80? I can't remember the model number now. That started about 800 quid, I think. The Olympus, OM system, still selling the EM10 in Japan as an entry-level camera, but the worldwide market has now gone. Now the OM5 Mark II is the new entry-level camera, and funny enough, I don't know whether any of you actually noticed that the OM5 Mark II is actually selling cheaper than the OM5. And not sure whether it happens in your market, you know, if you're in the US or anything like that. Because in the UK, the RRP, the recommended retail price of the OM5 Mark II, is actually cheaper than the RRP of the OM5 when it first came out. Obviously, we're not talking about street price because the OM5 has been a few years old. And but if you talk about new price, when you factor in inflations and all the other things that you're thinking about, the OM5 Mark II, if you base on the original OM5 list price, it should have been about £1,400. But nope, they actually gone backward. It's a bit cheaper. So this sort of tactics, I think that from OM system signifies that I think the OM5 Mark II is really the starting journey of or at least the starting price, the entry level for the OM system camera lineup. At least for now, you know, we're not sure about in the future, but at least for now, the OM5 is the entry-level cameras. So I don't think we're going to see the OM10 or the EM10 Mark V, whatever, you know, in the future. Definitely, I don't think we are going to see that unless they really do bring out a separate product altogether, a bit like the OM3, another totally new things that will be selling at a lower price, and we shall see. We just don't know. But if you look at the Canon, Nikon, they're all doing the same thing. There's really hardly any cheap cameras these days. The only cheap cameras I see that is new is Fujifilm. You know, the X-7 that I got, that's the entry-level camera. You know, that's selling at $899 when it first came out. And yeah, that's about it really. You know, I don't see any other entry level camera. I'm discounting the X5, the X-H1. The X-H1 really a traditional digital camera that allows you to do a lot of stuff. Is an extension to the Instax family, rather than the existing X family for the high end stuff, or for at least for proper photography. So that's how I classify them. So that's an interesting space we're in at the moment. I think the entry-level cameras are all but gone, you know, practically. So we shall see if that would change in the near future. If somehow, you know, the manufacturer figure out a way to attract new customers and new photographers with a new product, that would surprise me. And hopefully I do hope that they will surprise me and by bringing out something like that. I can't wait to see that if they do one day. Okay, let's continue to have a look at what else is here. Oh, there's something that about here now. Angelo, more megapixel means more processing power, RAM, and the computational photography. Yes. I mean, that's responding to my earlier comment about, you know, the engineer that I spoke to back in the Olympus days when they talking about bringing in new high-resolution sensors, not as simple as you just plug one in and use. Because, yes, like you said, Angelo, you do need more processing power, you need better chipset, you need more RAM, more bandwidth, or everything needs to be upgraded. It's not as simple as that. So you're going to talk about re-engineering the circuit board, completely overhauling the system and everything. So it's not an easy task. Not just about buying a high megapixel chips and just shove it into the motherboard and just let it work, right? It's not just like that. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. So but never say never. We shall see if one day we do have that. That would be really awesome, right? What the with the OM1 2, the OM1 fixed the low light AF problem. Right, you need to elaborate a little bit on that. I haven't really have any problem with the AF in low light, but perhaps I'm using 1.2 Pro lenses. That helps, and I'm not entirely sure. I haven't noticed any performance difference compared to the older EM1 cameras in low light, for instance. I don't say they will improve, but they're about the same. I don't see the difference there in low light situations. Seems relatively the same to me. So you have to maybe give me some examples of what sort of setup you have there. Maybe I can throw some light. If I can't, then maybe I'll relay the message back to OM system and let's see what they say about that. Yeah, please do let me know. And Sweden one, okay, and also want the new interface. No 3.5mm and 3 USB connection instead. One of them in the front of and the training EVA display might blah. Interesting. I think, you know what? I think that day will come at some point, because at the moment we are using old protocols, and you know, like cameras are a weird thing, you know, and I'm speaking out loud for all cameras, not just OM system camera. Look, how long did it take us to change from USB, micro USB to USB-C? Not just about OM system, you know. I know other manufacturers have moved on to USB-C, you know, a couple of years before OM system. We are a bit late for that, but overall, it did take a while, right? And we still have HDMI port. Why don't we just USB-C, right? Everything can be done in USB-C nowadays, and it's very simple. The cable is better, and they're widely available. You don't have to, you know, carry, you know, separate cables for different things. USB-C is great, and especially USB 3 and with the Gen 2, and they're really awesome. Like big bandwidth there. You can do display, you can do charging, you can do PD. A lot of things you can do with USB-C. I do agree with you, actually. If you have just a few USB-C ports, and that'll be a brilliant, right? Because even USB-C can be used for mics these days and audio. Yeah, I'm totally in. I'm totally in. If somehow, you know, to get rid of all these old ports and start to unify them, and that will be quite cool, and that will be a lot easier, that we don't have to carry a whole bunch of different cables everywhere. Just a couple of USB-C cable in the camera bag, it does everything, right? You know, that will be quite good. I would like to see that. I would like to see that, that's for sure. Thomas, would you take an E-M1 Mark III or an OM5 Mark II, assuming price is the same? Oh, that depends on what I am doing, because like for work, I would always go for the bigger grip models. You know, going to be E-M1 or the OM1. It's always going to be bigger grip because I'm using for longer. But for my travel, I'm always going to be the smaller one. It's going to be the OM5, you know, or the OM3 these days, because it's smaller, slimmer, easier to put in the camera bag, and I don't always have to hand hold it. I just carrying around my neck, or in the camera bag. So smaller, lighter is always my priorities in that sense. So so that depends. So I can't quite directly answer you that question, because it really depends, because I do both a lot. So I do travel a lot, and I do my pro jobs a lot. It just depending on what situation it is and what sort of thing I'm doing at the time. Okay, and right, the G100D, the G97 for under €1,000. Panasonic said it is expensive to make the new sensor with PDAF for those entry-level camera. It's interesting, right? Because OM system, or actually Olympus said that before for the EM10 Mark IV. And that's years ago, right? And the reason why they stuck with the PDAF, the CDAF, is because of that same reason that Lumix just talked about for the G100D and the G97, because the on-sensor face detection system is more expensive than traditional CDAF, and to keep the cost down at the time, they had to go with the CDAF, no PDAF. Simple as that. And also, Sweden one got another one here, and plus I want Bluetooth for my no Bluetooth mic. Bluetooth mics are horrible. Bluetooth mic, so far I have not seen a very good and capable Bluetooth mic. They are not very good for audios. I mean, it's good for headphone for now, but even headphones compressed, so it's not going to be great. So for audiophile, they always prefer a wired connection for that reason. But for mic, I have tried Bluetooth mics and things like that. The quality is always going to be just okay at best. A lot of the time I find that the voice seems to be a bit muffled and a bit more like almost like you're speaking with your blocked nose kind of thing. It's just very weird going on there. I mean, I have so many. Even the latest Instax 360 X5 that I got, I also got the mic as well, the Insta 360 Mic Air, which use Bluetooth as connection. They don't use the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth. So that is poor. That is in terms of audio quality, I think it's pretty bad, but it's still better than a lot of the Bluetooth mic that I used before, maybe because there is some internal processing to make it sound a little bit better, but I still think that it's not as reliable to start with, and also it still sounded a little bit blocked, and when it comes to the actual voice reproduction, it's just not as crisp, it's not as clear as traditional wireless microphone. So I would not go for the Bluetooth mic, and if they do what DJI has done, have a proper radio receiver built into the unit and let it be, and just like whatever, I don't know, something has to do. So yeah, that definitely not Bluetooth, but USB-C, I would definitely do that. That would be really cool. And let's see. Wow, Sweden over, you have a lot of thing here. So I also want the AI interaction to educate photographer. Like, what do you want to do today? You answer, like to go to the park, and then camera say, try to take photo like this and interactive, teaching the owner. Woo, you're talking about some sci-fi shit here. That's that would be cool. That would be weird though. Like imagine you are holding the camera, you're talking to the camera, and the camera talks back to you, and the camera sees the scene and trying to maybe do something, ask you to. Interesting thoughts. I'd rather have a proper teacher. Yeah, like me. If that happens, if this AI thing does happen, then I'm gonna lose my job. So yeah, no thanks. Okay, and Lee is here. Hello Lee, how are you? Greeting from the sunny West Sussex. Yeah, it's sunny today in London too, so it's getting hot apparently this weekend, so I'm gonna have some barbecue. Nice. I'm gagging for my burger. I really want my burger. Anyway, just got back from shooting in Arundel. I like Arundel. Arundel's a nice place. Traveling light as always with my Pen F and the 12-45. Nice setup. That's really good. Anyone use the 12-45? I think it's a brilliant little zoom lens. Definitely good for travel. A lot of people always ask me, why don't you take your 2.8 or the 1.2 Pro lenses when you travel? Right. First of all, weight. Second, size. Third, I don't do shallow depth of field photography, actually, for most of my travel stuff. And I like storytelling. So and also, for a lot of the deeper depth of field photograph, is actually a lot harder to photograph than simply throw this the background out of focus, because you have to consider more about the surrounding. You have to consider more about the color combinations, if you shoot color. So it's a lot of more things to consider when you stop the lens down. And I like that challenge, and I like that because whenever I go traveling, I like to document where I am. I like to see the story. I like to see the culture. So I like to put everything into the frame. So even if I take a 2.8 lens or 1.2 Pro lens, I actually stop down to 5.6 or to f8 anyway. So in that case, what's the point of me lugging around these big massive lenses in the first place? So I always bring my smaller lenses, for instance, the f4 zoom lenses. And if I want to prime, the new 1.8 Mark II lenses are great. 17-25 1.8, bright enough in low light. It's not too much of a difference compared to the 1.2, but you save yourself so much space and weight in your camera bag. I have 2, maybe even 3 of these little prime lenses, only compared to one 1.2 Pro lens. So that's the difference, and that's why I always like this travel light thing, with Micro Four Thirds. And let's see here. What has the best sensor? The OM3, OM5 mod. Oh, OM3 hands down. It's got the stacked BSI sensor, so it's in terms of raw speed, the OM3 is going to be a few times faster than the OM5, and it is that much difference. So if you use a lot of the electronic features, the OM3 is going to win every single time. And it also has a much more powerful processor, so that means all the computational stuff is going to be a lot quicker to process. And so the OM3 is always going to be a lot speedier. The AF is going to be a lot more snappier. And also, if you use electronic shutter, for instance, yeah, the OM3 was going to be way quicker than the OM5 in terms of speed. But doesn't mean the OM5 is any slow. I actually use the OM5 a lot, actually, and the Mark II is when I tested it, it was as responding as the quick to respond as the OM5 Mark I, so there's no difference there, so that's good. So that means I can still use for a lot of my travel thing, hiking and things like that. If you want something really extremely light, the OM5 Mark II it is, not the OM3, because if I want to just walk miles and miles and miles, yeah, the OM5 is perfectly good for that. In fact, it's great for that. And that's why it has so many cameras. You see, let's just my wife has her handbags, different handbags for different occasions. I have different cameras for different occasions. Right, okay. Robin here. I use E-M1 Mark II with adapter to the original 4-third lenses. It's a cheap way to get a great camera and fast, sharp lenses. Yes and no. I'm not sure where you are, but a lot of the original 4-third lenses, especially the higher end ones, are actually pretty expensive. I have my 35-100 f2 4-third lens, and I do use the adapter on my E-M1 and OM1. That lens is quite expensive now, and also very heavy. It is good, depending on what sort of lenses you're looking for. Some of the older Panasonic Leica lenses and the 4-third DSLR platform is relatively affordable, especially if you want certain characters, certain look on it. And I think some of those lenses are great for that, and I do like that, so that is amazing. So yeah, you can totally have a look at what's available in the market at the moment when it comes to 4-third lineup. But yeah, the adapters are great, but I think that you probably want to trying to get hold of the MMF3, which is the last one that they make, because the MMF3 is weather sealed, and the MMF2 isn't weather sealed. So if the 4-third lenses you want to buy is weather sealed, if you have a weather sealed camera, you really want to have a weather sealed adapter. So the MMF3 will have that, and it will cover the weather sealing. So so if you do want to do that, and make sure that you got the MMF3, not the MMF2, although technically they perform the same, and between the 2 and the 3, the 3 only adds the weather sealing. And Tate, hello Jimmy, and I want to use my camera in menu mode, and what are some good menu focus lens that I could get that are not so expensive? Shopping on Amazon Prime Day. Right. Okay. That comes in 2 questions here, if you want some advice. First of all, menu lenses are fun. Definitely a way to slow yourself down and get some proper action with your hands. But when it comes to image quality, that depends whether you want a vintage vibe or something that looks fairly modern. Because if you want modern looking images, there's only a handful of them available menu lenses for micro four third, for instance, because if you're looking for 17 or 35, I think the Argus lines, the 0.95 lines, are definitely very good, but they are very big and also fairly expensive. All the cheaper alternatives are usually have this kind of old school looking images, old school rendering, so they look like they're shot in the 80s and the 90s rather than 2025 or 2020. It's nothing like that. It's a little bit more older looking, so it's just depending on what kind of vibe you're going for. And I would say that have a look at some of the reviews I've done, and some of the reviews that maybe Richard Wong and other people have done these menu lenses review before. Look at those images and just see whether you like that look. And but overall, I mean, I'm fairly happy with I think TT Artisan's 27mm f2 is really good, very cheap. That is one heck of a lens. I love that lens, and it's fairly modern, not modern, but definitely not too old to look at. So that is quite a good lens to do. And in fact, I may have one right here. No, I don't. If you don't mind ultra wide angle lenses, I think the Laowa is always going to be good, and I think some of them are relatively affordable. Their 17mm 1.8 manual focus lens is actually pretty good as well, and quite cheap to get hold of. So you can try that one as well. 7 Artisan, if you look for some of the older M-mount Leica lens, it would be quite good to adapt to the Micro Four Thirds via an adapter. So that would be quite interesting to see as well. I think that will be it. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of choices. It's just really depending on the look that you want to see from your images, and you just have to make sure that you kind of like that before you click that buy button. It's very easy to do that. Okay, LED drop. According to Robin Wong, the E-M1 SAF has issue in low light, but I'm thinking it may be better in the E-M1 Mark II. I'm trying to decide which one should buy. I don't do a lot of bird in flight, so it may not be necessary. Yeah, like I said, I didn't have any problem with the AF to start with, and perhaps it's just my style of shooting, maybe my type of photography, for instance. It's quite hard to say sometimes, because I know certain reviewers would test all kinds of scenarios and things like that. A lot of the time when I do test cameras and do camera stuff, I do things that I do for my work, for my jobs. So because I don't shoot motorsports, I would not be able to test any of those car tracking things. I only play with them, for instance. So I wouldn't be able to tell how efficient they are, how effective they are. Birds in flight, I don't do that either. So yeah, it only apply to things that I do on a daily basis. So in some way, I always say to the, in my videos, have a look at the sample photos. That these are the stuff that I achieve from the lens and things that I do on a daily basis. So people should be able to relate what sort of thing they'll be looking out for. Probably similar to Robin as well, depending on what sort of thing he's looking at. And it's not always going to be 100% for everybody. And same as even bigger system, other system. And some of the cameras, like I said, like even if I use the Nikon ZF and it doesn't work for a lot of stuff, backlit, for instance, is always bad for the ZF, and for some reasons, and so it's not going to be as reliable in backlit. On the other hand, the Fuji is actually pretty good at backlit stuff, and then for some reason it always nailed the focus, with a couple of exceptions. But other than that, I think Fujifilm is quite good at backlit subjects and things, and they seem to nail the focus every single time. So yeah, it just really depending on what system, what lens is, combination of that, what type of photography, the style of shooting. So a lot of things going on there. So it's quite hard to really pinpoint. The best thing is, if you can get to touch and try, actually try out the camera yourself and see whether it works for you as a photographer. And because it's easy to overlook, just by looking at videos and reading reviews and journals, and then just to read about some of the comments about certain deficiencies or bad things about a camera without trying the camera yourself. And the best thing is really just go out and try that and put a memory card in, do some simulated and situations and scenarios. Try to do that if you can. And some manufacturer even allow you to borrow the camera for 24 hours or 48 hours. Do that if you can, and then you can actually take it home, really give it a good spin, and to see whether it's a good fit for you. I think that would be my suggestion. Okay, and let's see what else from here. And George, hello George, good to see you. Right, last couple of things before I wind down for today's lovely chat with you guys. So I would like to see someone stick a high megapixel APS-C sensor in a Micro Four Thirds body and give us a 20 by 20 square crop with a few more pixels. that would be interesting if they ever do that. I still want a digital TLR. I don't care who makes it. If someone makes a digital TLR, I'll buy like this with a heartbeat. You know, like I just want to get one of those, and I don't know whether anyone will have that you know, in the pipeline, or considering even doing it, because that would be a crazy project, and in fact it'll be quite a niche project. Probably people won't buy them, but you never know, right? People like retro stuff these days. They might actually be a good seller. I also use a lot of my pro lenses, the 17.95 Metacon. Yeah, I like that lens, although I just sold it. It's give away less the depth of field than is 17.1.2. The Metacon 25.95. This is sharp from 0.95. I also have the Voigtlander 0.8. That's even shallower depth of field. It's a crazy lens, but I love that lens I love that lens, really. Okay, so that's it, folks. I think we shall conclude today's chat. It's been almost 2 hours now, so well, in fact actually it's 2 hours. It's 5 o'clock. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's little chat about photography. Like I said in the beginning of the chat, just to remind you that a lot of things has happened in the last couple of weeks. I'm almost burnt out from my work, not necessarily from YouTube. That's why you haven't really seen many updates videos from me, because I've been so worked up about my jobs at the moment. A lot of things going on. I'm fully booked every single day. I'm doing 3 to 4 photo shoots a day, and that's a lot, and my body could just about handling it at the moment. And I'm not getting any younger, man. So like so at the moment I just simply don't have time to make videos. So I apologize just right out, you know, just you may not have seen a lot of new videos from me, because it's not that I have forgotten about you. It's not that I don't want to make videos. It just I simply don't have time. And even if I have any little time left, I would spend it with my family, because otherwise my kids will complain that where's my dad, you know, my dad's not around for the entire summer holiday. Yeah, it's not good. So I don't want that, because I mean I'm still a father, you know. I got 2 young kids to look after, you know. I want to see them grow up. So any sort of spare time at the moment I will spend with them, and any remaining time that I still have would be you know, for the YouTube, and because I still love you guys, and don't get me wrong, I really want to do something, so I'll be testing stuff in the meantime. I'll be doing stuff. There'll still be video coming out hopefully very soon. I'm editing a couple of them at the moment, but I'm only doing bit by bit at the moment. Just I'm trying to find little time to do it every single day, and I just don't have hours at the moment to edit videos, let alone testing new gear. But I do have some new lenses that I have to test. I do have some new gadget that I have to test, and I just haven't had the time. I have some new cameras to test. I just haven't got time. So it's really something that that I'm struggling at the moment. So hopefully you guys will understand, and also continue to stay with me for this busy period, and hopefully once I ride through this, and I will be back in form, and making some new videos for you guys to see again. But in the meantime, thank you for your patience, and hoping that I will make that 100 subscriber giveaway video that I mentioned earlier as well. Remember to stay tuned. I will make that video, and I will be giving away a brand new lens that I have. Hopefully you guys will like that lens. It's nothing fancy and nothing very expensive, but it's a brand new lens. I think it will have some collector values in that lens, because it's a older lens, but it's still brand new in the box. So yeah, stay tuned. Like I said, don't have your hopes too high, because it's nothing too expensive. I can't afford that sort of prices. So stay tuned for that video. But anyway, also pay some tribute to support to Robin Wong, because if you go to his channel, his one of his last videos is the message from him directly from China. At the moment, it's something about his mother. So bless him. At the moment, he's gonna take a short break from YouTube because of what happened to his mother. So blessed for him. So just yeah, give him some support there. And also Ben from the Narrowband channel, about his stage 4 cancer battle. Also bless him as well. You know, he's staying positive. Want to give him support, and you too as well. And if you want to go head over and say hi and just watch this video, and I think it'll be more than enough just to give him some support there. Yeah, it's just so much has happened in the last few weeks. It's not happy, you know. So I'm just trying to be the positive note within the community, because we all Michael Four Thirds shooters, we all Michael Four Thirds photographer, we all photographer, just full stop, just we all photographer. The last thing I want to see is any photographer suffer from any negative impacts to their life, and anything happen to them, the family, and things like that. So I just want to wish them all the best, you know, and whoever they are out in the world now. If you're having some negative things impacting your life, don't give up, you know, stay on your course, and best of luck, and hoping that we will all help each other out through the journey. And this is what this community is for. This is what this community is standing, and hoping to support each other at some point, you know, whenever that comes. So we're here to support you guys. So thank you very much for watching, and once again, and I just want to say thank you once again for all the support you have for me. And my channel has reached 100,000 subscribers. I got my silver button. I will hang it up right here next week so you guys can see it. And yeah, it's a very happy moment for me. I know it's taken me a while to get that. I'm not young. I'm not one of these hipsters who can crack on a viral video after viral videos and things like that. I'm just a hardworking photographer with a father of twins, and trying to do my thing. But without you guys, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have earned that award. And so it's all for you guys. So thank you very much once again for that. And again, final promotion for my 100,000 subscriber videos that I will be making at some point with a giveaway lens. So stay tuned, and happy shooting. And thank you very much for watching. And I will see you all very, very soon. Thank you very much. Bye for now.